100 Years of Glory, 1921 to 2021, Dobyns Bennett Football tells the story of the second winningest program in the state of Tennessee and 26th winningest program in the nation. And this morning we welcome the author, David Hoover, to Daytime Tri-Cities. David, appreciate you being here.
I appreciate you inviting me.
And Dobyns Bennett, near and dear to your heart.
Yes.
Talk to me. You've been a teacher there for a long, long time.
I spent 44 years teaching at Dobyns Bennett, and I began right after I finished college at Carson Newman. I was 21 years old. I was one of the youngest to ever be hired, I would imagine, and spent 44 years there teaching. I was on the baseball coaching staff for 24 years. So, and I grew up in Kingsport. I mean, it's been my hometown forever, and very proud to be a Dobyns Bennett alumni and teacher.
And this is not the first book you've written about Dobyns Bennett Football, is it?
Back in 1987, I published the book, The Sprinkle Era, Dobyns Bennett Football from 1921 to 1934. And it was in connection with a master's thesis that I wrote when I got my master's in history at East Tennessee State. It concerns the social development of Kingsport as well as the football program. But that got me interested in the subject, where later on I was thinking if I wanted to do the whole thing, it would be great, the entire history, but I needed to retire before doing that, because it's a very time-consuming thing to cover all 100 years and to do the research and all the work that's connected with that. But it's been an enjoyable experience.
And the research, I was going to ask you about that. Talk to me about archives, I'm sure, and things of that nature. A lot of research went into this book.
Oh, yeah. I subscribed to newspapers.com, which enabled me to go back and look at all the Dobyns Bennett football games beginning in 1921, and it took me all the way to 1992, I believe it was. And then from there, I was able to look at microfilm of games in the Kingsport Public Library and go all the way to the present. And so that was my foundation. And then from there, I had interviews. I scheduled interviews, and I interviewed, I think at the end, 110 people, dating back to the late 1940s. And that was the most enjoyable part of it. Yeah.
When you sit down and have those one-on-one conversations with people, did it bring back a flood of memories for those folks when you were talking to them?
And that was one of the most enjoyable things, because I saw, especially dating back to the guys that played in the 50s and 60s, where they appreciated the opportunity to tell their stories and to relive it. And they got me excited and motivated, because they were so involved, and they appreciated the fact that somebody was going back and retelling that period. And you know, it was an exciting period for Dobyns Bennett football anyway. It was a period, especially the 40s, 50s, and 60s, where they had tremendous success, and they appreciated the fact that that could be retold.
You know, it seems like for most football programs, there's up and downs. There's a roller coaster effect, according to the personnel that comes through during a given. But Dobyns Bennett has been able to maintain. You know, they do have their down years and their up years. But this is something that did you write about that in your book, about the ups and the downs?
Oh yeah, yeah, and it's true. It just seems like at the high school level, and even at Dobyns Bennett, you sometimes go through cycles where you've got outstanding talent for 3 or 4 years, and then you may have 3 or 4 years where the talent's just not as good. And sometimes there's no rhyme or reason to it, because they all came from the same basic foundation in what was then, in the old days, junior high, boys club football, whatever. And it just happens that way. And you know, we've seen that throughout the history of DB football. That's one thing I found, and I think local fans need to realize that's part of it. You know.
When you look back, and there's so many players. I mean, it's hard to put your finger on certain players, but do certain players stick out to you when you were doing the research for this?
Yeah, probably the greatest pure football player in DB history was Bobby Cyphers. In 1938, he set the national scoring record that year. I think it was 235 points. He was a halfback, and he also kicked extra points and field goals. But he was just a tremendous player. He drew national attention. In fact, there was a national news service, it may have been the Associated Press, who put his picture on the Associated Press line that went throughout the whole country. And partly because he was a strong-looking guy, big guy, black, dark hair, big smile on his face, he ended up getting 400 letters from girls throughout the country, some of them proposing marriage.
Oh, wow.
I mean, he became nationally known. In fact, they were in this, I think it was the Associated Press referred to him as the high school Red Grange. And he was one of the most nationally known running backs in the country at that time.
That's an amazing story.
And in college, and or he might have been as a pro at that time. But anyway, Cyphers was unique.
Yes.
Cecil Puckett was a hero in the 1940s because he was the star halfback on the first state championship team in 1945. He was certainly renowned. And of course, there have been some great coaches. Ed Shockey in the mid-40s coached the first state champions. And there were others through the years like him. Of course, Graham Clark,
yes,
who just retired, is the longest serving coach and winningest coach in DB history, and he just had a tremendous record.
I enjoyed Friday night spending after games
Yeah.
talking to Graham. They're always great with the one-liners.
He was always very witty.
Yes.
He could go on the circuit giving speeches and so forth and do extremely well.
All right. David, we appreciate you coming by today.
Okay, well, I appreciate
And
it.
so many great memories. We could sit here and talk for the entire hour about
yeah.
this, but
Yeah.
we appreciate you and the great work. It is wordofmouthpress.us. I'm sorry, wordofmouthpress.us for more information about this great book, 100 Years of Glory.
Are you looking